So this is one I installed earlier. I didn't install the sample data, but if you tick on install the sample data, you will have articles and menus and everything in there. So this is the front end. I want to log on to the back end, to the admin area. Where do I need to go? That will only log me into the front end. So you can set up the system. Let's say you are selling flowers, and you got an employee, and this employee will write some articles, but they don't really manage a lot. They only write the occasional article. You could create an account for them where they can write the occasional article by logging into the front end, but they can't really manage the system properly. All they can do is write a few articles if you provide the functionality. The backend for Joomla is always at the normal address followed by /administrator. So I'll just copy my URL. I open a new tab. /administrator. And now I've got my front end in this tab. I got my back end here. If I make any changes, I can go back to the front end and I can check whether the changes have been made. Okay, let's log on. And when you log on, this is what you'll see. Yeah, I just installed it. I haven't done anything else yet. So now it says, are we allowed to collect some statistics? You know, up to you. I'm fine with it. I think, oh, they give me the software for free. Let them have some statistics. They're important post-installation messages. Let's have a look. Okay, so we got version 3.8.2. Now they're saying, oh, you know, soon there'll be version 4 and we need those kind of requirements. You know, so just so that you know, if you want to keep this for a few years and you want to upgrade to version 4 down the line, this is what your server needs to be able to do. Yeah, fine with me, hide message. Statistics collection, yeah, fine with me. Welcome. Okay, here this is not bad. There's a beginner's guide. That might be useful. And there's a new to Joomla forum where you can ask other people questions. Absolute beginner's guide to Joomla. Lots of documentation here that will help you learn more about Joomla. So that might be quite useful. Hide this message. Two-factor authentication. You might know this from other pieces of software that you use. Yeah, let's say Google, Mail, or any other bits of software, or banks offer this often. So you could enable two-factor authentication here as well if you wanted to. Okay, hide this message. It's good enough. Yeah, no messages. Okay, let's go back here. If I click here, I go back. Yeah, here at the top left, I go back to the landing page of my Joomla installation. So it does look more complicated than CM Simple because we can do much more. Now most of the menus, or all of the menus, are hidden here at the top, but they put the most important menus here on the left. Yeah. So let's say new article. I could write a new article by clicking on content, articles, add new article. But because the idea is this is a very commonly used function, yeah, we've got an extra point for it here. So when I log on, I can also see some statistics. You know, which articles are most popular, which articles are most often read, recently added articles. But I didn't install sample data. There's nothing on my page. So there's nothing to show here at the moment. If there's an update for Joomla, it will tell you here at the top, update available. And then it's as easy as clicking on the button. Now this is version 3.8.2. once we've got 3.8.3, that will be a minor update. Yeah, only the third digit is basically changing. All those updates, they'll work without a problem. So you could just click on update. But if it's something bigger, let's say from 3.8 to 3.9 or even to 4.0, that's gonna be a big update. So if that happens between now and you showing me your work, you might want to consider, do you really want to do it, because there's a risk that things might go wrong. But you know, we only got, we only got 2 months or so before you need to show me your work. So I think it's unlikely you'll be in that situation. So the first thing I want you to do today is install Akeeba. Akeeba is an extension that gives you a very easy way of creating backups. So creating those backups is easy. Restoring them is not easy. But let's hope you won't be in the situation where you need to restore them. Even though it's not easy to restore the backups, you know, it's better you've got a backup you can restore than you don't have any backup at all. Let's go through the menus one by one instead of starting with Akeeba. So, you know, here, this icon, if I click that icon, I go back to the landing page for the backend. We've got a system menu here, control panel, that's where we are, global configuration, my site name. I can make the site offline. If I make the site offline, now I save my changes. Now, if now someone visits my web page, it says this site is down for maintenance. So there'll be lots of options here. There's no point in me going through all of them. But here's where you change your site name, your site description, and you see there are different tabs here: site, system, server. So the way the backend works is you often have different tabs for additional options. So these are just all the options under global configuration. And we've got different components here, articles. So you know, this entry again has, you know, so many different tabs. So you see there are a lot of little buttons you can press basically to make the system more like what you want. Yeah, that's why we started with CM Simple, and this is just orders of magnitude more complex if you look at all the kind of menus. And many of those things, especially here under global configuration, you might be happy just to leave them. Clear cache. Sometimes a web server would, instead of always basically running the PHP code, we talked about PHP code, and basically using up time on the server, they might basically store the output that has been generated. Makes life easier for the server. But sometimes things can go wrong. So if you think for some reason you see old bits of the web page that shouldn't look like that anymore, you can clear the cache. That should help. Global check-in. This is possibly quite useful. When you start doing something in Joomla, this part of your website will be locked. Yeah? You edit an article, this article will be locked so that somebody else can't start working on the same article at the same time, and there's the edit conflict. Yeah. Now what could happen is, and in the past it was very easy to mess up because you could use the back button, you could jump around, but now the system kind of tries to prevent you from going into somewhere and then jumping out. Yeah. So the system tries everything it can to prevent you from starting a task without finishing it, because if you do that, that bit of the page will be locked off and other people can't edit it. But it could happen your computer crashed, or you closed the browser down, or you just forgot to deal with something. It could be that bits of the web page will be locked. So if you do a global check-in, you basically check in everything that has been checked out. If you've been working with SharePoint for your employer, you might know this checking in, checking out system. System information that just tells you what kind of software we are running and so on. That might be useful if you want to install an update. Okay, users, this is where we manage the users. I can create new users, and in reality, in an organization, we don't think about individual users. We don't think about this is Mr. Smith and this is Mrs. Miller, and we don't think of them as individual users. We like to group them together when we try to give them permissions. Yeah, because if Mr. Miller is in this department, then maybe all the people in this department have these kind of permissions. If Mrs. Smith is in that department, maybe she gets a different set of permissions. So usually we don't apply permissions, i.e. what people are allowed to do, to individual users. We apply them to groups. So we put, we create users. Let me do a little drawing. I mean, it's obvious, but let's do a little drawing. Yeah. So we got little users. And then we put them in groups. Yeah, and this is another group. So the way we usually do it is, if there's a permission, let's say, what are we selling? Clothes. Okay. So let's say this is these are the people who added the part of our website about trousers. So edit trousers. So if we give them permission to edit all the articles that have to do with trousers, we usually apply it to that group, not to individual users. And now somebody else joins the department. We don't have to think about all the permissions again. We just put that new person in the same group, and they automatically get the right kind of permissions. And here they have shoes. Edit shoes. Yeah, and we apply that to that permission. And actually, my drawing wasn't very good. Can I erase? Too much. Okay. Yeah, groups can overlap. So if somebody is allowed for whatever reason to edit trousers and groups, this person here, we can put them in both groups. So when we manage permissions, where did it go? Here. When we manage permissions, we do that by managing groups, and we then put people into those groups. That's a whole topic for itself. I'll talk about it in more detail another time. If you're very keen, I've put some videos on YouTube. You can watch those videos. We've got different access levels. We can add user nodes. We can email our users. Menus. Menus have to do with... I made the site offline. But let's reload. Oh, is it still down for maintenance? Let's change that. Offline? No. Okay. Yeah. So menus. Look, we could have menus here. There's a menu here. I could put menus over there. So I can put menus wherever I want. So at the moment here, main menu, can you see that one? That's the one over here. So in Joomla, when we talk about a menu, we're talking about that whole block with lots of entries inside. And when we talk about in that block, if there's a specific entry, we call that a menu item. So I could create, a menu here. So did we say we sell clothes? So tell me one of the brands we are selling.
Nike.
Okay. So I want to link to our suppliers or to the brands we are selling. Yeah. And now I can say this is, what kind of link is it? And somewhere we can pick that this is a link to an external website. Where is it? We'd have to look. Here, an external or internal URL. So I'm just making it up now. I assume it's something like that. Yeah. And do you remember, did we do those HTML exercises, internal, external links? Did we do that? No. Okay. When we open a link, we can now decide if people click on Nike.com. That's what you meant, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I say Nike, but then some people say Nike, so not that I'm, you meant something else. So the idea is I click on it. Do I want to overwrite my current web page? Then I say parent, the parent window, or actually, do I want to open a new window? Okay. So I'll save it. If I save it, I'll stay in the same screen. If I click save and close, I save it and I close it. I go back to the previous screen. If I click save and new, I save it and I start the same page again from scratch. So if I want to, let's say, if I want to add 10 new menu items, I could always just click save and new. In most cases, you probably want save and close. You finished, you want to save, you want to close it, you want to do something else. If I change my mind and I don't want, I want to undo everything I typed in, I click on cancel. In this case, I do save and close. Let's refresh. The change has only happened on the server. Everybody in the world who visits our web page now gets the latest version. But I haven't refreshed my page here, so let's click refresh. Here's the link. I click on it. Great. Yeah. My fault. I just entered Nike.com. I should have started with HTTP. By entering just the address, the system thought it's a relative link, not an absolute link. Basically, if I have a relative link on a web page, I describe how to find this address relative to my current address. And my current address is this bit. And basically the system thought, oh, well, there's no HTTP. This must be a relative address. So somewhere in my location must be a folder or a file called this. But I don't want a relative link. I want an absolute link. So let's fix that. HTTP. Let's hope that will fix it. Refresh. Click. Yeah, now it's working. And as always, there are more tabs with more settings. Lots of different settings. Also here. Okay, save and close. Content. So any kind of page I want to create, we call that an article. And articles are managed by being put into categories. So if I want to write an article now, I could write an article, but at the moment there are not many categories here. At the moment it would have to go into the category called uncategorized. because I haven't created more categories yet. And here's our WYSIWYG editor. What you see is what you get. Lots of different options here. Okay, you said we are selling clothes. So articles go into categories, and menus, they would also work with categories. So what kind of categories make sense for us? At the moment, we only got the default, which is called uncategorized. So what kind of categories could we create?
Womenswear, menswear.
Okay. Women's wear. And the problem now is, let's say if I do trousers, is trousers a subcategory of women's wear? Or is women's wear a subcategory of trousers? Okay, but what if there's unisex trousers? So some people will say, pardon?
You have unisex. Womenswear, menswear, unisex.
Okay, but let's say I'm a man, I don't mind whether I've got male trousers or unisex trousers. I just don't want female trousers. Yeah, let's say a Levi's jeans, women and men would wear them. And my point here is some people would say Drupal is better. I talked about Drupal, or some people pronounce it Drupal in the past, because Drupal, instead of thinking of categories, they like to think of tags. Anybody here using Google Mail? Yeah. So instead of putting your mails in an Outlook, you put a mail into a folder. Yeah, a mail is in one folder. In Google Mail, you basically put a label on your mail. So yeah, the label could be business, the label could be private, the label could be whatever you want, but you can stick as many labels on one email as you want. In Outlook, it's in a folder. The same email can't be in two folders. So yeah, I can use tags here, and in terms of having problems like women's wear, male, let's say, jeans, stuff like that, tags can help me to get around this issue. But nevertheless, I need some sort of category structure. So I think it's easy to get the web page to work, but if you want to do it well, you've got to think first what kind of categories do you want. That's why it's quite useful if you practice first with another Joomla system, and you'll come across all those problems. Yeah. So should we stick with women's wear for now, or should we organize it differently?
Don't just put the unisex trousers in the women's section and the men's section, and then they find it anyway.
Yeah, would that not
No, because an article is only in one category. Yeah, okay, let's create the article, but it's a good point, and with tags we can do that. Okay, I shouldn't have gone out here. So, women's wear. Yeah, I skip the description for now, yeah? Save and new. Menswear. Save and new. Unisex. The same, let's say, children, If somebody is size-wise between children and adult size, again, you don't know really what to do with them. Okay, save and close. So I created those three categories. Now so what's our trousers? Jeans. So, do we have a model or brand or something?
No, it's going to be bold.
No, but this is an article now.
Oh. Gap.
Gap.
Yeah.
But I think only Gap sells Gap, or do other shops sell Gap?
Oh, right.
Oh, I don't know. What's the famous one from Levi's? Is it 301 or 601 or something like that? 5? 501. Okay. So, yeah, now I got the problem. You see, I got to put it in one of them. But let's say, is it one that women would wear? I don't know. Clothes. You need to answer. You pick clothes. If you pick. No.
Can you not make 2 articles?
No. Look, now it's here or there.
Yeah, but you put Levi's 501, so can you not do that again and then put it in menswear?
I can do that again, but then I've got redundant information. So let's say something changes. Let's say I write, oh, this jeans is available in blue and black. And suddenly it's only available in blue. Now I've got to open all the different versions of the article and edit it in all the different locations.
Is that not just part of the person's
Oh,
job?
right, so you're saying...
It is, but if I make this is where mistakes happen.
So when you make Levi the category, and then the subcategory as men's, ladies, unisex, then you are only editing.
I think there's no perfect answer. Depending on your demands, it will be different, and different clothes shops would do it different. But I think that would be better.
Right, okay.
Because if I use tags, then now I can do.
That's not how I'm doing it. So I go shopping on, say, like, Next website.
Yeah.
I go to the brand of the jeans I want. I go women's jeans.
But you are talking about menus now. Menus and categories are not the same thing.
Okay. So where do the categories turn up on your page?
You don't have to show them at all. They can be a purely internal thing.
Background.
It depends on how you do it. You could make a menu as a category.
Right.
Let's say tea. Tea is usually it's a black tea, it's a green tea, it's a yellow tea, it's a white tea. A tea is normally not usually black and green at the same time. And if it's some sort of blend, it's a blended tea. Yeah. But let's say clothes. We've got that situation we described before. So the real world out there is complex. We try to model the real world. And for some web pages, it makes sense that we have categories, and one menu is just directly a category. For other web pages like this one, maybe it's not ideal that a menu is a category. Maybe I don't show the categories at all. Maybe a menu is a tag. A tag is here basically a label I stick on. Think of me putting post-its on.
So you're saying like list brands instead of...
So
you're saying list brands instead of categories?
I say there's no optimal solution, but the one we came up with originally wasn't good. So no, the reality is complex. That's what I say. It's not like, black and white and this is it and everything else is wrong. It depends. So unisex, menswear. Yeah, I wish I could give you an easy solution, but the reality is not easy. Menswear, women's wear. Yeah. Now imagine that the Levi's 501, women wear it, men wear it. Now I can put all those tags in. I can create menus. Yeah? And now I can create a menu called unisex, a menu called menswear, and this product will now show under all the different menus. Yeah, I agree with you. And that's exactly, have you seen how many menus there were under global configuration? That's the whole problem. The whole thing is so complex, I can't give you a single path to understanding it. Depending on what kind of web page you want to do, different parts of the system will be important for you. Who's using Microsoft Excel? Huh? You will probably use very different functions in Excel than your neighbor. And you maybe use some a lot, your neighbor never uses, and the other way around. The whole thing is so complex, you got to pick the different bits that make sense for your website. And that's why it was good we started with CM Simple. That is very easy to get an overview. What I can say, if you look for those YouTube videos, if you're bored or whatever, have a look at some of them. So here's about categories and articles. system menu, content menu, how to install extensions, how to create articles and categories, how to have featured articles, and so on. So there'll be lots of videos.
So can you show us now on the front end where the menu shows up, where the category shows up?
I haven't created a menu yet, so there is nothing to show.
Well, just what you put now, is it?
Yeah, but I haven't created a menu that links to our tags or categories.
So what you've just done then with men's and women's, will that not show up anywhere on your front end yet?
No.
Right.
Articles go into categories, and it's just a mechanism of managing them. The same way as my drawing of the groups. Yeah, the groups are just some artificial construct to help me manage things. The same way as those user groups are an artificial construct I use to manage users. That same way, categories are some artificial construct I introduced to manage articles. They just exist as a structure, but if I want now, I can create a menu. So, now if I want to create a menu, there are lots of menus I can create. I can create a menu that links directly to a single article. Or I could create a menu that links to a tag.
Is there somewhere that gives us a definition of what these things are? So what is a menu?
Yeah, here look here, Absolute Beginner's Guide to Joomla. But yeah, there's a lot to read, so it's easier if you pay attention in class. So say I want a menu called unisex. Now I can say, yeah, tagged items. So which tag? I want unisex. Menu title unisex. And now I've got a menu that links to unisex. Now the visitor, the visitor doesn't see how your menu works. Now I create a completely different menu. I want to link to a specific category. So if I use category block, it just lists all the articles in that category one by one. If I do category list, it displays me the titles of the articles in that category. So let's do women's wear. Yeah. Women's wear. Save and close. Yeah. So the menus all look the same. Yeah. But one of them links to an external web page. One of them links to a category. One of them links to a tag. So it's again up to you to give the whole thing some sort of structure that your visitors will understand. Joomla gives you some sort of empty scaffolding to manage the whole page, but you have to use it in a useful way so that it's easy for your visitors to navigate. So the best thing is you sit down with a sheet of paper and you plan it out first. Or you say, I'm just experimenting around. I collect some experience and next time I plan it properly. Sorry? The difference is an article can only be in one category. It's like a file can only be in one folder. But an article can have many tags. Yeah. So it's like the difference between, are you using Outlook? Are you using Google Mail? Yeah. In Outlook, an email you put in one folder. You can't put an email in two folders. In Google Mail, there are no folders. You can put as many labels on an email as you want. Yeah. So with categories, my Levi's 501 has to be men or unisex or women. It can't be in two categories at the same time. But if I use tags, Levi's 501 can be men, women, and unisex. Yeah, I can apply all those tags at the same time. Let's go back to that article. Yeah. Here text, look, I put all 3 down. I can put down as many as I want. I mean, there might be a technical limit, maybe. You can only put 1,000 down, I don't know. But for argument's sake, you know, you can put down as many tags as you want. But category, it has to be in one category. You can't put it in 2 categories. If you wanted to, you can skip the categories. You just put everything into uncategorized. But using categories makes your life easier, because you can then say, for example, you know, employees from this group. Think back of our picture. Yeah, you can link the categories to the user groups, for example. Yeah. So these users can edit trousers. You can give this user group permission to edit all the trouser articles. You can give this user group permission to edit all the shoe articles. So, and we need, for the assignment, we need to pretend there's more than one user, even though in reality you might be the only person working on the site. Yeah, we imagine this is a site built for more than one user, different users with different kind of permissions. Second? Yeah. You want to include images? So here's my here, image and links. I can have an introduction image, a full article image. I can also have images part of the text. And this is a normal WYSIWYG editor. Yeah, and now I want to include a picture. Yeah, I can create a folder structure for my pictures. That might help me. Yeah, I can upload pictures.
Can you resize the image when it's on the page, or do you have to make sure that's all done with files?
Unless something has changed recently I'm not aware of, then Joomla is not good at resizing.
So you have it all set up before you upload the image?
It's probably best, yeah.
You know, if you were doing like an actual clothes website then? You know, if you were doing an actual clothes website. You know, if you did it, yeah. You know, they changed the, like, they did a picture and the description, don't they? And Backend changed the price sometimes if it's on sale and stuff. You have to edit.
The main way this would be normally done would be by insert. Yay! Yeah. So I put an image in. So what you normally do is a certain. So this is an interesting question I was just asked. You know, if you go to a real web page, when you go there, often things change around when you go there. The main way we do that in Joomla. This is quite useful. So the main way we do this in Joomla is we make an article a featured article. Yeah, they always change things around a bit. Here it is. They didn't change it around, I'm just blind. Yeah, if I make this a featured article, what we usually do, but you don't have to do that, is we have a landing page and we tell the landing page display all my featured articles. Yeah. And I make 5 articles my featured articles. And yeah, then I can just unfeature this article, which means it will automatically be removed from the landing page. So this is an easy mechanism of making this happen. Okay, let's close this. So components. So I talked about, when I introduced Joomla last week, I said there's the different types of extensions depending on how big and complex they are. So the really big complex stuff that usually creates their own menu here. So if you install something big, you'll end up with an extra menu here for your extension. So what I want you to do today is you install Akeeba. That's an easy way for you to create backups. So let's install Akeeba. There are different ways. I can upload a package file, which means I download basically some sort of zipped up file to my hard disk and then I upload it here. I can install it from a folder. You wouldn't want to do that. It's basically I download it first, then I upload it with FileZilla, and then I point the system to the right folder here. So forget about this one. This one's the most complicated one. Install from URL. That's quite good, you know, because upload package file, I need to download it first, then I upload it again. Install from URL. Basically, I copy and paste the link where the zip file is on the internet. I just paste the link here and I install it that way. And basically, my installation will automatically download it from the other location on the web. The files don't have to go through your machine. The absolute best way is this: install from web tab. So I suggest try this first, and if it doesn't work, then you can still use one of the other ways. With some versions of Joomla, this doesn't always work perfectly, but yeah, the one we want is Akeeba. The name is also on your handout. Akeeba Backup. So I want to install it. I click on install. I hope it's gonna work. Yay, successful. Okay, that's good.
So you do that, this Akeeba thing,
yeah. So now,
in Joomla.
Yeah. So now I've installed Akeeba. Now I can make backups. Now the problem is different servers in the world are very different. And look, this component now created its own menu here. I want to use it now. I just go to Components, Akeeba Backup. So different servers are configured in different ways. Yeah, imagine you got a programming mistake in your PHP code. You know, there are things like called loops in programming. Anybody here had a Commodore 64 or something like that? No. Yeah, you would write things like 10 print hello, 20 go to 10. Yeah, that's a loop. Command in line number 10 is print hello. Command in line number 20 is go back to line 10, and it would just keep printing hello, you know, until it runs out of power, until you turn the device off or whatever it might be. So there might be programming mistakes. So a server will be configured not to run a certain piece of software for more than X amounts of seconds. Let's say 30 seconds, 90 seconds, something like that. So Akeeba has absolutely no idea how long software can run on my server. What's the biggest file size my server allows? So the first time you run it, you need to run the configuration wizard, and the system will try out a few things. You know, how long can I run software? How, you know, if you've got a big site, it wants to make some sort of zip file. What's the biggest file size allowed? Now, if the biggest file size is 20 megabytes, but your site uses 100 megabytes, then it will basically have to create 5 different files. So the system is trying to figure out all those things now and will remember them. Okay, now it figured out all the settings of my server, and from now on making a backup is as simple as pressing this button. Now I can give it a name. You can just leave that, or let's say you know, you installed an extension, you changed the template. To help yourself in the future, you could give it a better name. Something like created first category, stuff like that. Makes your own life easier. If you need to restore the backup, then you know what was going on. But I want you to install Akeeba and create a backup. And then from now on you can always create backups, which means if for whatever reason your CMS stops working, we've got a fail-safe, we've got the last backup we can go back to. What else is in? Can I just follow your hand up?
Do we need to do that if we're using the test one?
Yeah, because it's good practice, you know, and it doesn't take long. So install Akeeba, and then I want you to create a category structure of your choice. This is just for you to practice creating categories. So think of a sample context for your CMS, cakes, clothes, I don't know, you know, your stamp collection, whatever it might be, your music collection, and create a few categories just to get used to the whole thing. If you want to work ahead, there are some YouTube videos I made earlier.
So this is what we're going to be using now for like the finished website.
Yeah, you could go to me and you could say, I really want to use Drupal because of X, Y, and Z, and then I'll say, yeah, you can use Drupal. No. So yeah, this is the one. This is the one usually students use. Yeah. Any questions? Anything you'd like to ask me? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah?
It. Sorry, it's not related. I'll ask you in a bit.
Okay. Okay, so see you in the computer room.